I myself have often claimed to want it all. For instance, I've claimed to want to live in a big old house with a bunch of rooms to host fun events, but I've also claimed to want to live in a tiny home where not a single square inch is wasted. Part of me wants fame and recognition, but another part of me wants a quaint life without any acclaim at all, one filled entirely with silence and meditation. Part of me wants kids and a high-impact career. But the other part of me says, if I'm having a tough day, man, I don't want any responsibilities at all. Do you see the tension here? I can't live in both a big house and a tiny house at the same time. And I can't be both famous and behind the scenes. And I can't serve others without actually taking responsibility. So no, I can't really have it all. Not in this one lifetime, anyways. I have to choose. And in making any choice, an infinite number of other possibilities are then sacrificed. But I don't view this as bad, per se. After all, there's incredible joy found in the sacrifice of one good for another. For example, I've recently decided to quit all caffeine usage. No coffee, no green or black tea, no matcha, no kombucha, and no chocolate. None. In a society that prizes itself on caffeine culture, this has turned out to be a huge sacrifice for me. It means saying no to a lot of tasty treats and coffee dates, and it means feeling this constant need to justify my choices to others. And yet, this decision has borne incredible fruit. The natural energy I now feel has made this sacrifice totally worthwhile. Whereas I used to be this slave to the cry of caffeine, I'm now liberated. I wake up bursting at the seams. There's no crash in the middle of my day, and I sleep like a freaking baby at night. This question of sacrifice, renouncing one reality for the possibility of another, ultimately depends on where you draw the line of sense, pleasure, gratification. For instance, though I haven't tried it, I'm positive that the high you get from injecting heroin into your veins is awesome. Beyond words, even. But does that mean I should go around shooting up all day? Probably not. The steady peace I receive from not being attached to that substance, as I see it at least, far outweighs the temporary rush I'd get from satisfying my craving. Or what about meditation? To purposefully be in a state of nothingness instead of purposely doing something else, anything, is the ultimate sacrifice. Is clarity of mind worth the progress you might make on another one of your projects otherwise? So again, where should any one of us draw the line? That's ultimately a personal decision and an absolutely imperative one at that. Should you sacrifice your physical comfort now for workouts that will only pay off in a year or more? Should you sacrifice part of your paycheck for the stability and wealth that arises only after decades of saving? Should you sacrifice your safe, stable job for a dream career that realistically might never actually bloom? Ultimately, what we're asking here is whether the joy of freedom is worth the discomfort of the unknown. Could there really exist a state of ecstasy beautiful enough to sacrifice all of your material possessions for? Could there be a radiance of peace worth sacrificing your entire reputation for? Could there be a joy so permanent, so all-encompassing, that you'd sacrifice eating and breathing for it? We've got 2 journal prompts this week. First, what sacrifice did I make in the last year that proved worthwhile? And second, what temporary pleasure will I give up this year for a more intrinsic joy next year? Events. Please check them out. You can find my full calendar in the description and then subscribe to it to stay up to date. Words and thoughts are fun, but ultimately useless until you embody their wisdom. Embody in your body. Come to a yoga class. Find out what's possible. Also, please check out my new Patreon page. It'll give you coupons to those live events along with free reign to my Q&A and personal inbox. Your subscription would mean the world to me. It'll allow me to make this work my full-time profession. All right, thank you for your attention. I'll talk with you next week. Peace.